listen and read along at the same time. Let each story touch your memory. Every English word will come alive when you connect it with images, emotions, and people. This is not just a story to listen to, but a journey to learn. You will learn English while following the journey of a small but resilient man. Now, let us begin. In a small coastal village in the south, there lived an old man named Mateo Alvarez. He stayed in a low house, its walls stained with sea salt, its grey tiled roof faded with time. Mateo was thin, his face carved with countless deep wrinkles. His hands were strong but full of cuts and calluses after decades of pulling nets. People in the village called him the unlucky fisherman, for it had been 84 days since he had caught a single fish. Yet every morning he still rose before the sun. When the sky was still draped in darkness and the stars blazed brightly, Mateo would put on his old cloth jacket and walk to the shore. The sea wind brushed his face, carrying the sting of salt. He looked up at the vast sky, listening to the steady rhythm of waves breaking on the sand. The sea is beautiful, he thought. The sea is like a woman, sometimes gentle, sometimes furious. But the sea and I, we understand each other. In the village, there was also a boy named Diego Ramos, who was 12 years old. Diego once went out to sea with Mateo, learning how to tie fishing lines and listening to stories of his old journeys. But his parents believed the old man's time had passed, that he was a bearer of bad luck. They made Diego follow other fishermen. Even so, every day he visited Mateo, bringing him some food and a piece of dry wood, and sharing conversation. One evening, the ocean glowed gold in the sunset. Diego helped the old man carry his gear. They sat together on a rock by the shore, watching the shimmering waves. "You haven't caught a fish for so many days now," Diego said softly. Mateo smiled, his hoarse voice gentle. "Yes, but tomorrow will be different. Tomorrow will be a lucky day." "I believe that too," Diego answered. "To me, you are still the best fisherman." Mateo's eyes softened. To him, Diego was like a son. "Do you remember the time we caught that enormous fish together?" the boy asked, his eyes shining. Mateo laughed. "Of course I remember. Many years have passed, but that memory has never faded." They laughed together, then spoke of baseball, of the great players Mateo admired. He mentioned Roberto Clemente, who played even while bearing pain. "If he could still swing the bat through pain, then I, too, can sail out, even in old age," he whispered. Before leaving, Diego placed a small bag in his hand, some bread, a bit of stewed fish, and a flask of coffee. "Make sure you eat enough," the boy said. Mateo patted his shoulder. "Tomorrow I will row far. Out in the deepest waters, I will find the great fish." "I believe in you," Diego replied, his eyes glowing with faith. That night, Mateo lay on his creaking bamboo bed. Moonlight streamed through the window, covering the room in silver. He closed his eyes, and in dreams he saw once more the African shores of his youth, where golden lions once roamed freely by the sea. The memory made him smile in his sleep. At dawn the next morning, the sky was still full of stars. The sea breeze whispered cool against his ears. Mateo rose, drank a cup of hot coffee. The warmth spread through him, reminding him of countless hopeful mornings before. Diego was already awake, too. He helped the old man carry the tools to the pier. They said little, only listening to the soft splash of oars in the water. As the small boat was pushed out, Diego whispered, "Good luck, sir." Mateo looked at him, his eyes shining. "Thank you. See you again." He set the oars down, steady stroke by steady stroke. The small boat drifted farther, past the familiar waters. The sun slowly rose, glowing red like a golden coin. The waves sparkled with light. Mateo felt strength surge in his chest, his heart beating fast like an old beloved song. A new day had begun, and with it, a new journey opened. Mateo Alvarez rowed farther than any other fisherman. He did not stop at the shallow waters, where the small fish often appeared. He wanted to go deeper, to the dark blue sea, the place few dared to reach. The sun rose high, its light spreading across the water. The waves rippled gently, and the wind blew softly. He carefully dropped the long fishing lines with small bait hooked on. The lines sank deep, disappearing into the vast belly of the sea. He listened to the sound of the water. In that silence, the sea seemed like a living creature breathing. He whispered softly, "Sea, be generous today. Give me a chance." A small bird flew low around the boat. Its thin wings fanned the air lightly. Mateo watched it and murmured, "Little friend, you must be here because of the fish. Show me where they hide." The bird circled over a patch of blue water. He rowed toward it, looking down. Mateo saw a school of silver fish flashing quickly beneath the waves. He cast his net, and before long he caught a small tuna. He smiled, his eyes lit up. "You will help me attract something bigger." Time passed. The sun reached its peak, burning fiercely. The sea glittered like glass. Mateo remained patient, his eyes fixed on every movement of the lines. Then suddenly, one line trembled. At first only a faint pull, then stronger, until the boat leaned heavily to one side. Mateo gripped the line tightly, his hands clenched, the cuts on them tearing wider, blood seeping out. But he did not let go. He whispered at last, "The great fish has come." The fish stayed deep under the sea. It was strong, proud, refusing to leap. It dragged the small boat farther out until the village was nothing more than a shadow behind him. Mateo did not resist. He let the fish lead him, clutching the line as if it were a vow. "I will not lose you. If you want to go far, I will go far with you." The day went on. Mateo ate the small tuna quickly and drank a little water. He was tired, yet his eyes blazed with fire. Night fell. Stars filled the sky. The fish kept pulling the boat. He spoke to it, his voice slow. "You are my brother. We fight, but I respect you." Suddenly, the fish burst out of the water. It was enormous, its long body shimmering with silver scales. Mateo saw clearly that it was a swordfish, larger than any he had ever seen. Awe and pride rose in him. "You are the most worthy opponent of my life." The night stretched on. Mateo tied the line to his shoulder, forcing himself awake. Every stab of pain from his torn hands only reminded him, "I am still alive. I still have strength." He remembered his younger years. Back then, in the village cafe, he once arm-wrestled a huge man. The contest lasted for hours. The man laughed, and the onlookers sighed, but Mateo waited, patient. At last, the giant's arm buckled, and Mateo won. They called him the champion. That memory flashed bright, giving him strength. I was strong, and I am still strong. In the village, Diego looked out to sea every day. Many fishermen whispered, "The old man is crazy. Going that far only means starving to death." Another man, Fernando Cruz, famous as a successful fisherman, sneered, "Mateo is nothing but a shadow. Big fish are not for men past their time." Diego grew angry. "He is not what you think. He is stronger than all of you." Yet inside, worry gnawed at him. He remembered Mateo's trembling hands, his steadfast eyes. What if he never came back? Meanwhile, far offshore, Mateo kept fighting. Night faded, morning returned. The swordfish, weary at last, began circling the boat instead of charging straight. Mateo knew the moment had come. Sweat streamed down his forehead. His hands shook, his shoulders burned. But he was patient, pulling the line in bit by bit. The swordfish leapt again, its giant body flashing under the dawn light. Mateo clenched his teeth and seized the sharp harpoon. "You are magnificent, but I must do this." With all his strength, he hurled the harpoon. Water splashed violently. The fish thrashed, then slowed, until finally it collapsed beside the boat. Mateo gasped for breath, his whole body trembling, yet in his eyes burned the light of victory. The swordfish was longer than the little boat itself. Its silver scales glittered, its tail flicked weakly. Mateo tied it firmly to the side of the boat. He whispered, "Thank you. You gave me a battle worth living for." In that moment, he felt happiness. He was not useless, not abandoned. He had proven to himself that age could not erase pride. But the trial was not over. The blood from the great fish spilled into the sea, spreading wide, and beneath the blue water, the shadows of sharks began to appear. Mateo Alvarez sat silently in his boat, his torn hands gripping the oar tightly. The giant swordfish, his pride and victory, was tied firmly to the side of the boat. It glistened under the sunlight, a miracle he had dreamed of all his life. But the red blood seeping from its body spread across the surface of the sea. Mateo looked around. Dark shapes moved quietly beneath the waves. Sharp fins sliced the water. Sharks. They had caught the scent of blood. He frowned, his voice hoarse but unyielding. "No, you will not take this prize from me." The first shark lunged, its white teeth flashing like knives. Mateo gripped his harpoon and waited for it to come close. As it bit into the swordfish's flesh, he struck with all his strength. Blood splattered. The shark thrashed, then sank. Panting, he felt sweat and blood mixing on his hands. But soon after, 2 more appeared, then 3, then even more. The water around the boat boiled with movement. Mateo knew he had only a small knife tied to the oar. He stood, legs trembling, but his eyes burned with fire. "I will fight until the end." He stabbed and slashed, each blow driven by desperation. Some sharks retreated, but many more came. Every time he heard the sound of the swordfish's flesh being torn, his heart shattered, yet he did not stop. Night fell. The wind grew stronger, the waves higher. Still, he fought, hands aching, back nearly broken. The sharks would not relent. When his knife snapped, he used the oar, and when that broke, even his fists. "You may take its body," he roared, "but you will never take my pride." When the sky turned grey to herald dawn, the swordfish was nothing more than a giant skeleton lashed to the side of the boat. Mateo collapsed, drained of strength. He knew he had lost to the sea, but deep inside, he understood he had not truly been defeated. The boat drifted slowly back toward the village. The waves carried him to the familiar shore. When Mateo set foot on land, the morning light was breaking. He staggered forward, tools heavy on his shoulders, his hands wrapped in dry blood. The villagers looked out, struck silent at the sight of the massive swordfish skeleton. It was longer than the boat itself, its fins towering, fierce and beautiful. One fisherman whispered, "My God, no one in this village has ever seen a fish so large." Another bowed his head. Mateo did not lose. He is the greatest fisherman of all. At the edge of the dock, Diego Ramos came running. The boy's eyes filled with tears as he looked at the old man's cracked, bleeding hands. "They don't deserve you," Diego said, his voice breaking. Mateo smiled faintly, his trembling hand resting on the boy's shoulder. "Don't be sad. My grandson. I went far. I fought to the very end. The boy turned to the fish skeleton, his voice firm. Tomorrow, I'll go back to sea with you. We'll go together. Mateo nodded gently, hope flickering in his tired eyes. Yes, tomorrow. He dragged himself back to his small house, lying down on the old bamboo bed. Outside, the villagers still gathered, marveling at the swordfish's skeleton. They whispered, awed and full of respect. But inside the quiet house, the old man heard only the slowing beat of his heart. He drifted into sleep, a smile on his lips. In his dream, he saw once again the coast of Africa, where golden lions ran freely along the sandy shore. Mateo did not bring home the whole fish, but he brought back proof that a man may grow old, may grow weak, but he will never die. When you feel like giving up, remember this victory is not only the final outcome. Victory is the courage to go farther, the strength to fight to the very end. Read, listen, think, speak. That is how you learn a language, and that is also how you live a resilient life. And the journey never truly ends. Tomorrow will always be another voyage to sea,